Now we're getting her up there. Okay, we're here for good. You're not going anywhere now. Can you hear me good?
Yeah.
Yay! Say hey.
Hello.
Hey, everybody. Here we are. So I am at a little bit of an advantage because I've had a chance to get to know Kayla already. I feel like I have. I mean, it's been a couple times we've already talked, and we spent a little time today getting a little feel for what we'll talk about tonight. But for the most part, this is an opportunity to be able to just listen and learn. And this is an opportunity for Kayla to be able to introduce herself to you. I will just quickly introduce her. Kayla's been in our group for about 4 months now, I think. Kayla found us by happenstance. She was looking for a certain group of people, and you can plug in certain keywords if you're looking to connect with just the right group. And it found us. So I was so happy to have someone also from New Orleans, because that's my dream trip. I always wanted to go, although after we talked today, I'm not so sure where I would go. You would have to be the tour guide to get me around, because all I know is like the French Quarter, and we learned that that's not really all that's cracked up to be, especially during Mardi Gras. But so let me just tell you real quick, Kayla is a New Orleans native, and she works in the field of toxicology, which she will tell you about. And she aspires to eventually get her PhD in biochemistry. So Kayla loves science. I'm a real science geek myself, and I'm looking forward to learning more about what you do. But really, the purpose of tonight is to be part of a series that I've been calling Listen, Learn, and Love, because this is a chance for us to just get very authentically honest about how well do we really know each other. And I'm looking forward to introducing you here to Kayla and letting her take over. I'm going to disappear off to the side, but I'm going to give the stage to her and let her tell you more about herself and how she sees the world where we're at right now, and just all the thoughts that are on her mind. So blah, blah, blah. I will shut up now and I'll go off to the side. Okay, so with that, Kayla, take it away, girl.
Okay. Hi. As Jennifer said, that I'm a New Orleans native. I was born and raised here, and I have a science background. I have a degree in biology, and I work in toxicology, where I do urine analysis for drugs of abuse. And I eventually want to return back to school to get a degree in biochemistry so that I can be more of an impact on the research side to our day-to-day living in a more natural way, where we're not using synthetic modes of healthcare to elongate life. And in the midst of that, I also like to have outlets to express my thoughts and feelings. And so I do that through a podcast, and I also do it through writing. And usually I'm really a reserved person, but now I just feel like my voice is as I get older, the value of my voice is increasing. And so now I just want to speak up when I'm uncomfortable, or if somebody's uncomfortable and they need to someone to speak up on their behalf, and just informing people, because some things are some people are unaware of certain things because they never been privy to it, and so and they've never had to operate with thinking of somebody. And to be honest, most people don't consider how they impact people in their day-to-day life. We pretty much operate in a self-based capacity. And so pretty much my experience have been, when growing up, probably to the age of 11, I seen and grew up around just Black people. You know, I never was told that my complexion was wrong, or that people disliked me because of my complexion, not my character, but simply the tone of brown that my skin happens to be. And so as I got older, that's when I started realizing people dislike the tone of, or the tone, the shade, the darkness that my people's skin happened to be in, the varying shades of brown. But, I was never taught to uh, be rude to people or judge people. So even though I became aware of that as I got older, that never changed my character of being a good person. But now that I'm in my later 20s, I'm starting to notice those things that people always talk about, like more so like microaggressions. People express how they feeling through their actions, and that's just things that I hadn't been aware of, but now that I'm aware of. And so, pretty much my experience as being a black little girl, a black woman, has come in a form of a lack of opportunity or resources, and some ways like a value, like a in a way like my voice, or just my being a threat. And it's not anything that somebody told me a white person would be threatened from my presence. It's just growing up, you pick up people energies, you do consume people perspective, and you do feel for people who have different experiences. And I just always, it's almost like, even just always wanted to be on the right and not wanting to ruffle any feathers. So even like if I'm in a store and I'm not doing anything wrong. Sometimes if a white person come close enough, I check myself to make sure I'm not threatening them, even though I can do just what some white people do and feel threatened that they may think I'm gonna steal something from them or physically harm them. But I'm thinking about what they perceiving of me versus just being a consumer in the store. And then even being in the store and being told by my partner, don't get too close to me because they may think we're stealing, and we are spending our hard earned money in an establishment just like any other person. And so that's been my experience, and the fact that um, like not understanding how a group of people, not saying it's all people, but everybody has a part with upholding beliefs and ideals that aren't true. And even if a lot of times you uphold stuff that you're not aware of because that's not your reality, you know, some people, like a white person, have no idea of how I operate day to day because they've never walked a day in my shoes, and vice versa. So sometimes I just feel like now is the time that that people have to be informed about how they move and how they uphold different structures and stigmas and systems that hold groups of people back, how they play a part in it, even if they're solid. And the same with me, I can't expect somebody to save me. I have to be aggressive about making change, making being a change that I want to see as well. And uh, as I've gotten older, I just can't get around the ideal of the fact that the United States is considered a melting pot, and a melting pot is simply, we're almost like assimilation, like we're combining all of these beliefs and everything and making it like an American belief. But for my people, that's pretty much erase like any traces that we have to our own cultures and traditions and stuff, because we don't know we have if we have certain beliefs because it's an American thing, or that's something that our our ancestors actually had as traditions. And then just the ideal of, everybody love black culture, but they don't want to appreciate the influencers and the people that make that culture so vivid and so appealing. And so And then also, I've experienced lack of, like, in cases of generational wealth, is 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 no way that I should be in the year 2020, and the generation that the people that's in my generation are the generations that's creating generational wealth for their families. You know, most, not saying that all Black people don't have generational wealth, but it's not a standard. Um it's not like across the board. Is And so, what I've seen is like not having, like, things, like simple things, like my parents being able to pay for me to go to college. I knew the only way I can go to college is if I got scholarship money. So I worked hard to keep my grades up in high school so I can have enough money to go to college, because I've always aspired to be a doctor, and I knew that wasn't free. And so, and then also things like, uh, wages. A lot of the low paying jobs are occupied by minorities. And you can't expect people to come up if they're getting paid less than $15 an hour. That's no money to live off, especially if you have children, let alone being able to purchase a home, purchase vehicles and things like that. So, and also, like, welfare, and how like there are systems in place through government that, intentionally keeps, uh, Black families separated, that takes the that put that separates the man and the wife, and put them at odds. Not put them at odds, but systematically, if a Black woman want to be on welfare and reap benefits of, like, Section 8 and things like that, she can't have a man living in a house with them. So it's like systems like that that intentionally keep a woman a single mother, and kind of forages her, as long as she wants the government money, that she has to essentially just be there, in, like, no, not having any male role models, as far as like a father figure in that house, that lives in that house. Because even though your daddy could be present in your life, it's different with having an in-house father and an in-house mother, because they shape your day-to-day, because you watch them, how they move and how they exist in this world. And so it's like a lot of things like that I've seen growing up, that has kind of, is almost like it's systems to keep us in a box. And many people are able to overcome that, but is overcoming it at a unfair disadvantage. Like, we have no head start compared to our white counterparts and things like that. But we built this country on our backs. My ancestors built this country on their backs, and I have to work 10 times harder just to be able to afford to buy a house. I have to pinch pennies just to buy a car, and pinch pennies just to have a life that doesn't consist of me just working for, what, between 60 and 70 years to retire and live some type of decent life at that point. Um, and um, I've experienced the lack of resources and capacities, like having having to be a part of programs that was created to compensate for things that every child should have, or every adult should have, some type of even playing field with achieving. When I was on the track of getting into medical school, I had I applied and was accepted into a early medical school program. And so basically, every year they choose 15 students from predominantly Black schools, universities, and minorities, pretty much. So the big part of that 15 is Black and Hispanic students. And so they pick 15 students every year in hopes of putting more minorities into medical school, because the amount of doctors that's in the world doesn't reflect the population, like with a lot of stuff. There's no way in this time that it should be sectors of um, of the government and different entities where there's still first Black people still breaking into it. And and I yeah. So with that program, it allowed me the opportunity to take a prep course through Princeton Review to equip me with some of the skills to be able to take the MCAT. And that's things like, if I didn't have the program, I would have had to study for that exam on my own completely, and that is a very hard exam even with a prep course. So it's just little things like that that people may not see as a difference, but it changed a whole trajectory. And it just changed a whole lot. And I'm not here to make anybody feel bad or uh, to feel indifferent on what I'm saying. I'm just here to bring awareness and just express that certain things that you may not see as a disadvantage is definitely a disadvantage for a different individual. And just calling everybody to task to be as informed as possible, even when it's stuff and things that's not affecting you, your children, and your immediate friend group. I think that may be different, but okay. See, I have notes. I'm just making sure I'm covering everything. Being a part of it. Okay. I think that may be all that I wanted to cover.
I'm going to come here and say hey again.
Hi.
Hi. Wow. Wow. You shared, there's a lot of thought-provoking points that you made. And
Mhm.
I wondered if, first off, I want to open it for those of you that are watching live with us. This is one of the advantages of watching live, is that you get to engage in the conversation. And maybe you came on after we already started, but if you have some questions that you'd like to ask, I'm sorry, did I ask you, Kayla? Did I ask you, if it'd be okay if we
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
have some questions?
You
Okay.
did.
So if you have some questions you want to have, like I like to think we're kind of like in a virtual. Let's imagine our virtual. Did that again. So we're just kind of sitting in the living room or sitting around a nice big dining room table, so we can have that intimate setting and get to know each other and feel comfortable. Because let's face it, you guys, I mean, just like you're saying, Kayla, I mean, many of us grow up in these homogenous communities and we don't really have a diverse group of friends. So it's really, this is what is a blessing about the environment today, is that we're becoming more aware of the fact. You brought up that fact about awareness, and the awareness I'm hearing is that we may talk about diversity all we want, but I think that when we look at our circles of friends, how diverse are we really? And if we're not connecting with different people from different backgrounds, then what we're learning is really just like theoretical, or we're watching somebody else's company. We're not really involved in a real relationship where we can learn firsthand. And many of the things you said are really resonating with me. I want to go back to a few things you said, Kayla, and one of them was, this has really struck me, and it's kind of getting to me a lot, but you're talking about how, like, when you are out whether you're shopping as a consumer, especially, and you're saying you kind of have to have this awareness that you have to be careful to keep your distance because you tell me about that a little bit more and whether you still feel that way, what that has felt like for you. Do you just get used to that? Or do you feel like you're always on guard, wondering, are people judging me, like afraid that I'm gonna, you know, try to steal something? I mean, this is hard.
Yeah, it's something that's always in the back of my mind, just trying to, in a way, protect myself at any cost, not to give anybody the opportunity to say anything that I know I wasn't doing, or um, just or any reason for any police involvement or manager involvement at an establishment. It's like almost it kind of makes you, which which I really want to break with it, almost make you feel like you have a specific place in the society and you don't step out of that place.
Wow. So you're still today, you feel like you're conscious of that? Is that kind of just like a learned behavior then? You're like, I mean, I just by default, I just keep my.
Yeah, it's actually more so from other people experiences, because you're told, oh, you need to be careful when you do this, do that. So it's not like it happened to me and then I created the behavior to respond to it. It's more so of being told this is what you need to look out for and creating the behavior around that.
It's kind of like being on the offensive, like being prepared just in case. Sounds like
Yeah.
adopting that. Well, I mean, if we're being us be admit that I'm learning as a white woman, and if I go back to my experiences, I was in a Catholic grade school for 8 years, and there was one black family in the whole school, like the whole 8 years. I remember who it was
Hmm.
too, Burnett Gladney. Ah, man, I really really liked him. He was the sweetest guy, but I never really thought at the time, wow, it's like the only black family in the whole school for 8 years. But then I jumped from that into public junior high, and it was very racially diverse, and there were a lot of racial fights going on. It was actually kind of violent, and I jump out of this Catholic grade school, and I'm like put into this public high school. So I already had this sheltered life, right? And there were a lot of race wars going on, mostly between the guys. It was always the men, right? Both the guys, and it was the Hispanic community and it was the black community, and they were the ones that were fighting. And I mean, it got really ugly. So this is my first introduction into race relations. I'm like, oh my God, I'm getting scared because I'm getting in the middle of a fight, and now I'm all scared. And then by the time I got to high school, that it wasn't the same because it was diverse, but it wasn't. I don't know what was going on. We lived in a pretty bad neighborhood. But, you think about, we're reading a lot about how black men are unfairly targeted, and they're the ones that feel like, like we're hearing now about how a lot of black mothers, they raise their boys to be on alert and just say, hey, if a cop ever pulls you over, whatever, you just do what they say or whatnot. And I mean, we all should be feeling that way because none of us should be like trying to mess with a cop or authority. But
Yeah.
it seems like, I just want to hear more like from the standpoint of women of color. I mean, you're saying it, even as a woman, I'm still feeling that sense like I got to really be
Hmm.
on alert. So what kind of experiences have you had with, you said in the job you have right now, it's diverse. You have some white women that you work with. Okay.
Yeah, it's predominantly black people that I work with, but upper management is white people.
That's right. Okay.
Yeah.
So, let me go back a couple other things you said. And as you think of anything else, if you want to like expand on something you said, just interrupt me, tell me to shut up, and you go.
Okay.
I'll say what you're going to say. Um, Let me go back to where you said you got a podcast. Because, girl, you didn't
Yeah,
mention that sooner, really.
I know. I thought I did. I thought I
Oh,
did.
I thought maybe like one of our first phone calls you said that, but so that is really great because that's got to be a great outlet for you to be able to express your voice, right?
Yeah,
So
it is.
tell us about your podcast.
Well, I use it to either like with me mentally, like when I'm processing ideals or feelings, it's better for me to write it out or just talk about it. In a and if I'm just by myself speaking about it, it's just I'm more freely to express it in a way where I'm not having to explain what I mean, but I'm just simply letting it all out and processing the feeling and the thought. And so that's essentially what it is. So if I have something that I want to talk about, I I express it in the podcast.
Oh, I started a podcast back in October too, and I'm gradually starting to find my voice. And now with everything going on, I'm like, okay, it's great because you have a whole platform. It's just
Yeah.
whatever you want to say. I mean, I get on YouTube and all kinds of people who I don't know. They're making videos and they're getting shared and I don't know who they are, but they've got a lot of interesting things to say. Would you like to share your podcast with us?
Yeah, like the handle.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. It's called the key lies within.
Key lives within.
Yeah, the key, like the key you open your door with,
Okay.
lies within.
Oh, lies within. Oh, I like
Yeah.
that. Okay.
Yeah. So the premise is pretty much, you know, um, like most people seek outside resources with helping them figure out things, either about their health, their mental stance, and things like that. But my whole promotion is that the key lies within you. You have the resources within you to figure out how to make things better for yourself because you're the one operating in the body. Even if a doctor can tell you, because a doctor bases things off of symptoms, or and if you ask a therapist, they operate based off of uh, research patterns of if somebody exhibits A and B, this is what it has to be. But you know what you're feeling inside, mentally, physically, and so just using the fact that you have all of the tools, uh, using the fact that you have all of the feelings and you can better explain it to yourself than explain to somebody else what's going on, and just knowing that you don't always need an outside party to help you get through
Mhm.
uh, challenges and things like that.
Well, it sounds pretty profound for someone your age to have that wisdom. It's kind of like tapping into your intuition, like you already know what it is.
Yeah,
You just got to listen. I've been hearing that word. That's why I kind of wanted to have these conversations because I feel like right now what's speaking to me is the fact that we need to really be listening, more listening, and that's not just like listening to someone's voice, but I think it's listening, like you're saying, to your intuition because you like already know. It's like you have a conscience, right? For the most part, you kind of know what it is that you
yeah.
need to do. But well, you should be a life coach then. Maybe it'd be one of your part-time things is become a life coach to teach people how to do that, right?
Yeah, I've thought of it.
You should. We'll keep that in mind. Okay. I know there's other things like, so how do you tell me how you keep up your self-confidence as you're navigating your way through the world and it seems like you're still trying to reconcile too, what you grew up to believe about white people, and then what you experience or what you hear about or read about. So it sounds like you're still kind of reconcile your place in there and I'm just wondering how do you keep your self-confidence going to just know you're worthy as you are, regardless of your skin color, regardless, like, where do you get that juju from to keep you
Well,
going?
I think a lot of it is from like the foundation. When I was a little girl, my parents never told me, they never made me feel bad about my weight or anything. They never told me any, they never promoted negative self image on me. And so, I've always grown up to not worry about like what, like people's opinion about how I look. Now, I am a woman. I do have insecurities about certain things, but it's not to the fact where I dislike myself or my skin color. I just look at everything as a blessing, and that I was placed in this body for a reason, because I don't have a choice. Like, even though I have parents that procreated and made me, it was it was by design, because there's a bunch of different combinations that could have came out of those genes coming together. So I just know that there will never be somebody exactly like me physically, even
Wow.
though I have a brother that looks like me. There will never be somebody that's physically built like me, with this complexion, these facial features, and things like that. So that's what keeps my confidence.
Well, and you, man, I'm just thinking this is kind of how, if you are a person of faith and you know that God has created us each unique by design, we're no accident. We're all unique creations. I'm reminded that you said your grandfather was a pastor.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, he still is, right? He's still
Well,
pastoring.
he's passed away.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he
Yeah.
passed away.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Okay. All right. So, couple other things I had, and I know that there are some other people watching, and I would say, hey guys, if you want to ask any questions, please do, but they're probably all mesmerized, or else maybe they caught you a little bit late and they're going to come back after the fact, but then that's too bad because they're missing the chance to just like hang out and and talk to you directly, and that's what I wanted to these sessions to do. But I know it's summertime too, and people have been tired of being indoors with COVID,
yeah.
and so they're starting to get out, staying late a little bit longer. A couple other things I wrote down here. Okay, and you mentioned you have a brother. Do you have any
Mhm.
other siblings?
Yeah, I have an older brother as well, and I have sisters too, but I'm not close with them. I have a brother. I have an older brother that's, well, but I'm the baby,
I was
but my older brother, he's like 6 years older than me, but I have a brother that's a year older than me, and we're pretty close.
does he live in New Orleans?
Yeah, he lives here too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tell me what would you like to see? What opportunities would you like to see for the future? Well, if we're talking about, us becoming more aware of the racial diversity. I mean, we're aware of it, but we're not really connected. We're not, like I said, I'm seeing that many of us don't really have that much diversity in our friends, and so I feel like it takes an intentional effort to reach out and connect. Tell me what you're feeling at this time with what's going on in our country, and how as a white friend, how can we help each other to walk through this and become more sensitive and aware? What would you like to say? Really putting you on the spot here, right? But
Uh,
you have a good soul, so I know you.
um. Well, I don't know if I have one answer. Probably the bigger part is awareness. Like, um, when it starts, just starting individually. Like, if you experience something, it could be small. You can just think about, I don't know. Let's see. Like, if you have an encounter with a person, it doesn't have to be like a bad encounter, but if you have an encounter with a person and almost like reflect on what you said, how you said it, how they communicated back to you, and just trying to find understanding if you delivered that message in the best way using the words and how you may have how you can do things better to get your point across. And then anytime you feel like any prejudice or any hesitation with encountering certain ideals or people, you just start tracing back where is that coming from. So if you feel like, say, with a certain friend, if you feel every time they talk about um a relationship they have with a partner, and you get hesitated behind the way they're talking about it, then you from there you can ask yourself, why does that relationship they have with somebody else bother me? And then if it bother you because you know your friend doesn't do right by people, and then you ask yourself, why do you feel like that? And it say is connected to you being the person on the other side, so you can empathize with the person that's being mistreated. And then from there you can be aware of your feelings and then choose to operate differently when you're in that situation again.
That's very good.
Yeah.
So empathy is always going to be the key. Right
Yeah.
now, I feel like there are a lot of, especially, speaking as a white woman, I feel like, for those of us that are rooted in our faith, we all know that love is universal and we treat everyone fairly. We treat everyone with love. We have scripture that we go by. But I think this is that time in our culture and in our history where we're specifically looking at, I kind of feel like I want to just like protect and like connect with and protect and advocate for my Black friends in the Black community. And it's kind of like, well, what could I do? How can I help without, we talked about this earlier, I'm not going to be trying to school my white friends on things I don't know. Although we
Right.
talked about that, where I feel like I have white friends that are trying to school me on things they know. And my thought is, well, I kind of don't really think this is where I want to be schooled from you. You know,
Hmm.
I want to
Yeah.
connect now, so I feel like this is that time to do that, but not like expecting that like you are going to be, having to walk me through everything and tell me what would I say that would be, what's the right language to use? Do we have to feel like we're walking on tiptoes? Like we have to use the right words or right language? Because if there is, then we need to know what that is. What do you think about that?
Just know, as long as it's not derogatory or demeaning, it's okay language or mockery.
Mockery.
Yeah.
I know the women in this group. I don't know all of them in particular, but many of them are also friends of friends, so it kind of started small and then more friends invited. And so far, it seems to be a very warm, authentic, and good-hearted group of women. Except I
Hmm.
wish they would ask questions here. I don't know where they are, but
Yeah.
they might come back and do that. So I feel like I want
Yeah.
this group to be that, and I want to continue this on Thursday nights and just have more conversations. But is there anything else that you had thought about that you want to just include and say as we come to close?
Yeah. So, one thing that probably will help with starting to broaden the whole ideal of the what it is that Black people go through as far as creating awareness around it is understanding the privilege that many white people are privy to came at like a destruction of a whole group of people, and that same group of people, you tell them to go back to Africa, and things like that, where the how America is built would not even exist if it wasn't for those same people. So it's almost like, you know, you got to realize where your privilege come from, and it's like a slap in the face to have that privilege, and then in the same token tell those same people, the people, the ancestors, how you say it, the people who ancestors built this country, to tell them that they need to leave this country, where essentially is none, most of us aren't native to this land in anyway. Everybody is an immigrant. So, you know, that would be a good place to start understanding your upbringing and how you've been privy to certain things growing up.
Yeah, and that's an excellent point. I think the way that you just phrased that makes sense, because we hear about, we hear about privilege, and I think we take that for granted. And it's a wake-up call for us all to look at this aspect of life we've taken for granted, but everything that we do. And that's, I think, a big part of the awareness is just being grateful for. Maybe that's part of it, is also being able to express gratitude for that privilege and
Mhm.
acknowledging it. But, you know, I think that I look forward to more conversations, and, I hope that you'll feel free to get on. I hope we continue this, and maybe we'll even have another group conversation or something like that. That would be kind of cool.
Yeah.
And follow up with all this, and come on back and talk some more, because, yeah, I'm processing some of the things you said, because we didn't talk a whole lot about this in our earlier conversation. But yes, a lot of really good points. And like I said, I could tell you had a really sweet heart, and a good soul, but you're honest, and you should stay that way as
Mhm.
you're finding your voice. Always be authentic. And I think if you're rooted in empathy and love, and you could still have a strong voice and feel confident that has, what you're saying has to be heard.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you.
Have
Thank
a good
you.
evening.
I don't want this to end in a way. Want it to end, but we got to end. So for those of you that are watching, if you have any other questions of Kayla, and, I encourage you to just put the questions up. Kayla, just keep coming back and checking and seeing what
Okay.
other questions are up there. And this is our opportunity to listen, learn, and love one another, and create awareness. Okay.
Yes.
All right. Mwah. Thank you. All right, everybody. Good night. We will see you next week. I have a few women on hold right now who may or may not be available next week, so I don't exactly know which one it will be, but we'll be back here next Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time again, and we're going to continue this definitely through the month of June. Okay, so peace. Take care. Bye.